Hi, guys. This is Doug. You probably don't remember me. It's been a few weeks. You're listening to What's the Hazard? This is our podcast about workplace safety and health. Man, it's you probably haven't heard an episode. It has been, how long has it been, Dylan? It's been 2, 3, 4 weeks, 3 weeks since the last episode. I have to apologize. It's been a busy summer, doing a little traveling with the family, on the road quite a bit for work. So it's good to be back in the studio. Got a really interesting guest today. My friend Ben Thornburg is the safety manager, Drake Williams Steel, here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yep.
We've known each other for a few years now. He is one of the young safety professionals that gives me hope that the future is solid. I was pretty depressed for a while, but I've met a lot of really amazing young safety folks like yourself.
To share the depression with. So that's
Right,
cool.
man. Misery likes companies,
Yes.
certainly, you know. Thank you for being here, man. I know it's a work day. You should be working. There are people who are counting on you, and you're not there, of course.
I got approval from my boss to be here, so we're good. We're covered.
Very good. Well, thank you, John, for letting him be here.
Yes.
I want you to talk a little bit about yourself and your journey to getting into the safety stuff, but part of the reason I asked you to come in, among other things, because I've really enjoyed our conversations, but you are interested in the utility of what I'm going to call AI, this artificial intelligence thing, whatever that is.
Right.
You've been investigating how that might be useful in the implementation of an effective safety and health program,
Right.
how that might help us. And I think that's fascinating, and it's something that, frankly, I'm on the back end of my safety career, so other than just, touching here and there little bits and pieces, more likely unknowingly, I thought it would be a fascinating conversation so that, folks that don't know much about it or aren't using it might have some insights into what might be available to them. So, but talk a little bit about yourself and, if you would, and what you did prior and how you got into safety, those kind of things.
Well, yes, thank you
Of course.
for having me. Safety manager, Drake Williams Steel. Been there since March of 2021. Prior to that, after high school, I had joined the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps in aviation for a few years. Flew around and worked on helicopters. Obviously, safety's kind of paramount with helicopters.
Right.
You drive in a car and something breaks down, like you pull over on the side of the road. You're flying in a helicopter, something breaks down, you fall into the ground,
Right.
and everybody dies.
That gravity thing.
Right. Damn. Kind of got more so into the training and safety side of it, more admin stuff towards the end of my enlistment. Did more training, management of all of us crew chiefs and tracking of it and doing it. And I was like, I kind of like it. So I got out of the Marine Corps in 2019 because I wanted to know what I'm doing with my life more than a month in advance and be able to plan stuff.
Other than those deployment letters
Yeah,
or
it's
notifications or whatever.
My wife moved out there after we got married in 2018 in January, and I was like, yeah, we can finally be together. We'd been long distance ever since, and or since then. And she moved out there, and I was like, this is so awesome. And then I proceeded to go anywhere and everywhere, and I think we were actually only together for 6 months total from January 2018 to when I got out in April 2019. It was like, all right, thanks for coming out here. Hang out alone by yourself and not know anybody here. So anyway.
Yeah. That's a sacrifice that when people say thank you for your service, I don't think they necessarily appreciate the sacrifice much like that goes into service.
Well, I volunteered to do it. I knew I didn't know all the sacrifices that I would have to take or make or whatever, but my then girlfriend, now wife, she was just kind of along for it and kind of got shit on for a lot of it, where I was like, I'm here. I have to be here legally, so whatever, I'll take it. But she stuck through it voluntarily. It's
good for her.
So yeah, she's awesome. Love her. Anyway, I got out of the Marine Corps, and I knew I should take advantage of the GI Bill. So I went to school at UNO, used the GI Bill. was going to go to school for teaching, but they didn't transfer any credits over from the Marine Corps, and I didn't want to be in school until I was like 28. So I was like, I'm going to change. Right. So I ended up just getting some degree that UNO had called multidisciplinary studies. Basically, if you don't know what you're doing with your life, you just combine all your classes. And so I was able to get that in a couple years. I was going to minor in psychology, but I wanted to graduate a semester earlier, so nixed that. But my wife has a degree in psychology, so I get to learn from her by her analyzing me in whatever way possible.
Oh, I totally get it.
Yeah, she's great at it. I saw a job opening. I was about to graduate. I was working at the airport just for a FBO, just towing planes, fueling planes around. I was like, I'm about to graduate with my degree. I should get like a big boy job. So saw a job at Drake Williams Steel. It said safety and training, and I knew that I had done a lot with training.
With both, and safety, as you
said.
Yeah,
safety management and stuff in the Marine Corps. I was like, let's do that. And was blessed to get a job there, and I loved it. And that was my first, honest, pure safety professional job. Didn't really know much about it. That's what led me here. And I've been there since March of 21, like I said. And I'm married. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old son.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And a dog.
Yeah. And a commitment to work for another 40 years to take care of all of that.
Yep.
Good for you.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah, Drake Williams is a really interesting company, and we've done some work together down there. I had visited a few times as an OSHA person and as a consultant. Our friend Mark, who was probably the first person I met down there. I think he had been in the safety role at one time, and so
he has taught me anything and everything.
Yeah, really, really sharp guy, man. Yes. A good mentor.
Amazing.
That's cool.
Human being.
Yeah, man. So, so you've taken this job now. You're a trainer, safety and training primarily. That evolved into the safety manager position.
Correct.
Which is excellent. This is a big operation. Talk a little bit about Drake Williams and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Drake Williams Steel has 4 facilities, 3 in the Omaha area, 1 out in Aurora, Colorado, but primarily structural steel. Not like steel buildings that you'd buy and go put up and put together like a Lego set, but more custom detailing, fabrication. So we get the steel from the mill. We have 2 structural steel plants, so get it from the mill based on the prints or whatever it is that the jobs that we bid and got. We'll process it, fit it together, weld it, paint it, and send it out to whatever job site.
And this is big stuff.
Big stuff. Heavy stuff.
Really
tons.
Big stuff. Yeah, man.
Like 60-foot long, 10 tons stuff, which is insane to me.
Had you ever been in a plant like that?
Absolutely not.
It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I had joked once I think it was with my wife. I was trying to think of what to bring up with, like, if someone was like, have you ever been in steel before? Like, what's going on? I was like, nah, but we did have a saying in the Marine Corps. I had flown on CH-53 Echo helicopters, and so we just had like a thing on our wall, and it said, twisted steel and sex appeal. Like, hell yeah, brother. But that's like my only experience I had with steel prior to this. Was, twisted steel and sex appeal.
Flying steel through the air.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Hurtling through space.
No doubt.
But yeah, then we have a facility, a smaller one, but abrasive blasting, powder coating, liquid painting. And that kind of helps us with a backlog of structural steel painting. A lot of structural steel, if you didn't know, like gets primed. It's not just raw steel going out there for the most part. A lot of it gets primed. Some of it doesn't, but might have a top coat with it. So that coatings facility helps relieve some backlog, but also has other customers that they'll service. And then we have a rebar facility that gets stock rebar, whether it's in coils or straight sticks from the mill, and custom orders for whatever shape you might need. Whole gambit of different machinery to handle the different sizes of bar, as well as some stock inventory of stuff. But just a lot of overhead cranes, a lot of heavy things, a lot of things that don't look very big, but they're still heavy, so it's an easy finger pinch or whatever it might be. And it's a lot of variation and changes because
everything's custom.
It's not just a widget factory. You know, you could have a couple hundred pieces for a job. And when I say pieces, they're all 40 foot long and they weigh 6,000 pounds, and every single one of them is different. So it's not as easy as thinking up a jig to hold it steady or to have it in one place. Or,
that's a good point. Yeah.
You can only weld in a certain position. So even though it's not the best way to stand it up stability wise, that's the only way it can be, because I've got to weld a plate here or there or what have you. So it's really interesting.
It is.
And I really enjoy it because it's something new every day for the most
part. And so this is kind of off topic. Well, not entirely off topic, but what is it about you and your makeup, your psychology that seems to have been a good fit for this world, the safety? You're very analytical. You're a data-driven guy. You're like detail-oriented. Like me, I'm just totally an airhead for the most part, So, and that has suited me in certain situations. What do you think makes?
Oh, man,
I'm not trying to, you have to blow your own horn, but I mean, what are your strengths like that?
I think that's what's weird about safety professionals, I guess. I don't know. In my opinion, this might be complete bullshit, but there's so many different personalities within the realm of safety professionals. Like, you have the super analytical ones. You have they really don't care about any subjectivity whatsoever. It's just objectivity, that, and that's all it is.
Right.
But then you've got like the ones that can kind of flex back and forth, which isn't always the best, because you don't want to flex on a safety standard. But I guess it's not flexing on the standard itself. It's more so flexing on the approach to it. It's not just that's the standard, so we have to do it that exact way.
Right.
It's instead, we don't have to do it that way. The how that doesn't necessarily matter. It's as long as we get there.
Right.
I think that might be it. I struggle with it a lot still, but like realizing you can't always be 1,000% compliant in a way, but even above compliant, getting the A+. If you look at compliance, is like a C average, but you can't always be exactly right there. But you shouldn't let that not let you try
Absolutely.
to get there. So
I totally agree with
recognize taking smaller steps, even though it's not the best or it's correct, and you'd probably catch flack if an insurance broker or carrier comes out and they're like, "What do you mean you're not doing it like this?" It's like, all right, well, dude, calm down. I'm trying, and this is what we can do right now. So being able to do that, not get stuck there, because then you're kind of stuck in this, well, we're good enough, we'll get by, but like keep going. I don't know, process driven, but also not 100% process driven. I'd say, I don't know, it takes, I just finished a book, audio book, Range by David Epstein. It just talks a lot about specialists, generalists, depth versus breadth, how that has its applications in professions and life. But I really enjoyed the book. But that's, I think, where I would find my success is specialists have their place. Absolutely, they're needed in life. But also realizing, to everything we just talked about, like, you got to have kind of flex in all of those different areas and facets to be successful. Because if you're
I think it really requires adaptability, because, as you said, the absolutes are few and far between in what we do.
Right.
It would be great if you could comply with everything in the book and then enhance those things where necessary.
Right.
But I was talking to an old friend of mine, Darwin Craig, who I worked with at the area office for many years. Yeah. He and I are now collaborating on some work now that he's retired from OSHA, which is great. But he was talking about the difficulty in being on their team rather than being the adversary. He was out doing some consulting work for me, and now he's on their team, and he's like 35-year OSHA guy. He goes, that was so unfamiliar to me, to be collaborating rather than, challenging or questioning or whatever.
Right.
It's interesting, man.
Well, yeah, you get somebody that comes in as like been working consultancy type business, and just the conversation with them, if I were to bring them on as an employee, they're going to remain in that same conversation of, and what you guys could look at And it's like, well, all right, go for it. Like,
Right.
look into it and try to apply it.
Yeah, right.
It's that application part that's like, yeah, you could recommend anything and we can talk through anything, theoretical, whatever it is. Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's go try it and wait till you get punched in the throat for the first time.
Right.
And then you'll realize, fuck. No matter
absolutely right.
no matter how much, like, it's probably actually a great idea or a thing that's going to work, but like recognizing, all right, that can't, knowing you're going to get punched in the throat and it might not work shouldn't stop you from still trying, but address some of those variables up front and try to get after it by listening to you've had him on here multiple times, but Pete Suska, a Todd Conklin type mindset of that's you will not be successful if you're just reading standards, reading books like that, reading the rules, and then trying to go do it. Listen to the freaking people doing the job. Let them guide every single task of your day for the most part.
No doubt.
As long as you do that and you get constant feedback, change your ways. If it's not working, listen to them. You're going to be successful.
I completely agree.
You're going to be engaged with them.
And I see this with my clients when the switch flips and they understand the importance of getting feedback from their employees that are going to be stuck with these procedures and stuff that we develop or these policies. Once they understand the importance of that, things start to change for them. When they're just shoving stuff down people's throats and trying to be compliant, oftentimes, trying to follow rules that weren't designed for their workplace, they're always running up against that obstacle, that wall. But once they start to ask, how can we do this best? I've always, I think compliance is certainly important. And I was a compliance guy for many years, but I just, make things as safe as possible. Our goal is to produce a quality product as safely as possible, whatever,
right.
As efficiently as possible. If we can agree that we're doing that, then I think you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, at least.
Oh, absolutely. Being creative with it, becoming compliant by not aiming to be compliant.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's a creative take.
Well, let's get to this AI thing, man. This artificial intelligence. I don't know how we had the conversation, but at some point a few years ago, perhaps maybe 24 months ago or so, we were talking, and you mentioned that you were doing this deep dive into artificial intelligence and what the hell it was, and can it help us? I mean, what does it do? Talk about what sparked that curiosity. Are you a naturally curious guy? I mean, is that something that is...
I like to think so. I don't know. Usually when I try to be curious, that's when I'm like, I'm not a curious guy. And then you just happen to do something one day, and then someone's like, it's like, it takes somebody else telling you, like, wow, that was interesting that you came up with how to do that, or I would have never thought about that. And then I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess you could use like AI for that. Tell me what to be curious about.
Exactly. I don't even remember what got me started on it. I think it was just a matter of reading about it, and then I was interested in it, and it's the same kind of mindset as a lot of people in the past, which is just, it seems like something kind of important. Might as well learn about it as best I can now, so I'm not stuck on the back end and trying to play catch up. And so that's what I did at first. It was actually, I had told this story before with somebody else, but it wasn't even work related. It was something at home that I used it for. I downloaded ChatGPT. At the time, it was like 3.0. It's at like 4 now, 4 Omni. But my wife and I have a flower garden, a cut flower garden, and we were about to put new fabric down, landscape fabric, and we need to figure out, based on the spacing of the certain flowers we were putting down in this row, you can only plant them so close, and we were going to burn 3-inch holes in the landscape fabric to then plant the flowers in them. But we wanted to come up with the best pattern that would fit the most holes given the spacing dimensions of all the flower types. And Jenna, my wife, was trying to do all that. She's super smart. Me, nope, not me. But like I'm like a C in geometry and algebra kind of guy, and that's the highest I ever took in math. And I was like, I'm not gonna sit here and think about this, Jenna.
Right.
We gotta use AI for this. And that was like the first time I downloaded the app, and it was when I realized it's not just Google. And I think that's the first, if that's point number one, and the main thing somebody takes away from today is like AI isn't just Google. Don't think of it like Google. It's not just you searching for something.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it is. And if you're falling trapped to that, like just try to break that mindset. And maybe we'll touch on a few points of how to try to do that. But I just plugged in, hey, what's the most efficient pattern for us to do burn holes and this, and this, given these dimensions and blah, blah, blah. And it gave me the number. It's like you could fit, like 10 seconds later, it's like you could fit 276 holes if you do a staggered grid versus if you do a triangular, you'd get 321. I was like, oh, cool. But then it quite makes sense because Jenna had already done some figures, and I was like, based on Jenna's math, we could do a little bit more. And then I realized that's what got me into understanding then, like prompts, what I'm asking it and how I'm wording it really matters, because my first question to it was, what is the most efficient? I used the word efficient, and to it meant something else, the pure definition of efficient. Like you mentioned how your mom was an English professor.
Mm-hmm.
Like AI, that's the second, I guess, point I would try to make sure somebody takes away is like the importance of prompting. If your mom is an English professor, imagine sending her a note and having her critique the definition of every single word and apply it in a literal sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what AI, a certain model for the most part, they're going to take it in the literal sense.
Absolutely. And
it's going to give you an answer. And then some people might see that as, like, I could have looked at it and said, well, that's wrong. This is bunk. This is stupid. It's going to waste my time. I could just do the math and figure it out. Or I can just really critique and drill down on the verbiage I'm using, the types of words, the types of requests, how vague or specific I'm going to be, and when I'm going to be super vague or specific within my conversation with it. And that's going to give me the best answer I need. So I just got rid of the word efficient and kind of worded it more vaguely so it had the general idea, but I didn't want to guide it down the wrong path. And it ended up giving me the right pattern with the most number of holes we could get. And I was like, all right, that thing was pretty neat. This is pretty cool. Started using it more after that. And yeah.
And then you thought, how can I apply this to my work life? That's
like, because it's like kind of a nerd in the sense of I enjoy reading and listening to books, podcasts, and whatnot. But I also have a hard time of separating that between like work and regular life. Because to me, there's like, it really just blends together, especially in safety. But that was the thought then. I was like, well, all right, if it was able to help me figure that out, what problems have been on my mind and what problems at work have been keeping me up that maybe shouldn't be keeping me up anymore? What if I can use AI to help me out with it instead of me trying to figure out all the world's problems? Let's use that and do it in a creative way. Try to figure it out. And that's what kind of, I don't even remember the first thing I used it for work, but just been using it since. Have a handful of different projects I had used it with, or projects in a way, but anyway, different routes we could go with that, I guess.
Well, let's go this. I mean, for people who have no idea what the hell we're talking about, what's the difference between, you mentioned Chat GPT, which is just one of many AI type applications. What's the difference between Google and Chat GPT? I mean,
well, it would have been,
I think everybody knows about the Google at this point.
The Google. Well, yeah, and they just had the hearing for whether they're a monopoly or not, right?
Yes, they did.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
But yeah, so it's kind of confusing, especially now that like Google has an AI model, like Google has Gemini.
Right.
And it's like, well, fuck, everybody's got an AI model, so it's really hard to differentiate and tell the difference. But in the simplest sense, yes, it's exact. You'll always, for the most part, hear, well, what AI model do they have? So Google is a search engine. Think of it a couple years ago, because right now, like I said,
it's kind of evolving right now.
It's like you're getting an AI response for the most part right now. But think of it a couple years ago. You just search, and whatever you type in, it's just like using, Control F in your file browser or in a document. I search for the word fun, and it's going to pull up how many times it's used in that document, and it's going to highlight the words for me. Same thing with Google. Obviously, we all know Google. It's not just going to search exactly what I put in there. I can be very specific with it. But then it is me going through and finding the images, the videos, the documents that fit my description that I typed in, and I've got to read through them, find the content that I wanted, and find anything that's applicable. Versus like an AI model.
Chat GPT. Let's just use that one because I'm familiar with that.
So OpenAI is the company that made Chat GPT. I should have prefaced with, like, by no means am I an expert in any of this. So, like, there is could possibly misspeak on something. Please don't hold it against me. A lot of it is just like,
man,
way over my head. But I enjoy using it, so I try my best.
Yes.
But so Chat GPT is a model, and certain models are good for certain things. So if you hear of one called Midjourney, is an AI model that is amazingly crazy good at picture generation, image generation. ChatGPT's version of that, or OpenAI's version of that, is DALL-E 3, or DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E, I think. Or you have Google's AI model, Gemini, Anthropic's AI model, Claude, and then they have different versions of it. Think of it as like you have the Chevy Silverado, their truck, and that truck is great for utility things. You can take it in a ditch, you can haul a trailer, you can load up whatever it is in the truck bed, but then you've got the Chevy Impala, and it's great at commuting, gas mileage, fitting into small spots so you can park on the street. Not great at going into a ditch. Not great at hauling a trailer. So different models are made for different things.
Interesting.
And there's different manufacturers. Chevy has a truck and a commuter vehicle. Well, so does Ford. And so does Toyota. So think of Ford, Chevy, Toyota, different manufacturers. That's the OpenAI. That's the Anthropic. That's the Googles. And then they have their own AI models with their own types of vehicles, if you will, for different purposes. One's really great at images, not so great at writing a story for you. One's really great at writing a story, not so great at making a video or something like that. So that's the whole world of AI models and why it can be pretty confusing as to what the heck they're for, or like LLMs. What is it? This is one of those large language models or whatever it is. Versus, AI is large language model. All of it is LLMs. No, not quite, but go down the right path. So, like, at least you're questioning it. So go to, like, credible websites, and just Watson X is IBM's AI thing. Go into IBM's website and just checking it out. And they have a bunch of amazing resources that'll walk you through it. If you have no idea, like, what AI even stands for, they've got articles for you that'll take you through a little step-by-step tutorial.
Interesting. Okay.
Microsoft's got it because Microsoft has Copilot, which actually uses ChatGPT as its AI. But they've also got helpful resources. Like, stick with credible resources, because you can easily get put in a freaking tizzy by just Googling, what is AI? What's all this about? Just go to the Microsofts, the IBMs, the OpenAI, honestly, and just read on their websites, because they've got plenty of resources. Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned something about, think about Google a couple of years ago, because now when I go to the Google, which disturbs me that I do, but I do anyway because of the convenience of it, Right. I don't love to be monitored by, whatever that is, Big Brother used to be. I can't assign a gender to it, but whatever it is, now it gives me an AI response. So it'll give me a list of the websites or different links or something that are relevant to my query. But it always starts off with an AI generated response now, which is Gemini probably punching its way into my world. So, and I've only noticed that within the last 6 months or so.
That's the thing.
But it has been really subtle. But now it's just, I've become kind of accustomed to that. It's weird, man.
Well, so we'll relate it to safety here. Like pet words. If you're a company and you're trying to sell a product right now, you better figure out how to put the word AI in it somewhere, because somebody's going to look at it more and say, well, if they use AI, then I'm going to buy it. AI has been used for all these websites. Like Google already gave you like what they thought was the answer before Gemini was doing it for you. Like, it would give you, this matches the best.
It would prioritize those responses based on.
It would give you a little snippet. It was already doing it. And AI has already been in use for monitoring and every stroke of your mouse on a website being tracked. It's going to figure out what products you're going to use, how many clicks you spent on this website, what traffic, where did it go through here and there. It's just a matter of it's being viewed differently now. And so now it's just pump out AI and get them to see it right there. Look, we're using it. Or talk with your AI chatbot. Well, you guys have had chatbots.
Right.
It's just a matter of how it was framed or trained, I guess, in a certain way of, well, it's going to go through just a decision tree. And if I say real person, real person, real person 6 times, it'll connect me to a real person. But now it can kind of finagle that a little bit. It's just, technology is just improving fastly. It's insane how fast it is. But AI has been in use. And to relate it to safety, it's like, I don't know. I'm not bashing anyone. It's a great service and cool thing. But like the camera systems, like integrating AI into existing camera infrastructure at your facility or job site to say, hey, kind of like your Ring doorbell, you can say, I don't want you to alert me every time a car drives past my house. I'm going to change the square that you detect from, and I'm just going to set it to my porch. Well, you can do that with these camera systems now, and you can say, well, I want to monitor this walkway, and if a forklift drives through it, it pings me and it captures the video. Or I want to monitor this person in this loading area, and if it's, here's all of these images of improper lifting techniques, learn that AI system, and then if you see any of these in that person that you're watching in my camera system, capture it, snip it, let me know, because I need to fix that and make sure they're not blowing their back out or anything like that. All the way to fire detection, speed, all of that. Well, right now there's like a lot of those companies. Hey, you just wanted to talk to you about integrating cameras or AI into your camera systems. It's like, yeah, but is it AI? Is it generative, I should say, versus machine learning? Does it provide me with something? Does it do something for me? Or is it just like data analysis and providing me stuff? It's just, anyway, people, you just be wary of.
So they're framing everything as AI that has any machine involvement.
Right, but it's not. It might just be, like IBM had a chess playing robot, whatever. I don't even remember what it was called, but and it was like, whoa, that crazy. Well, it is an early form of it, but it's a super simple form, and you could call it AI. So companies that are like, we are going to invest in AI, it's like, it could just be it could still just be a flow that somebody's set up. If question is asked, give them really fancy response of this, that, and the other. It's like, okay. So anyway, there's lots of different ways to look at what AI is in general.
And we're being bombarded with it right now because everybody's trying to gain some market position. So we're being pretty overwhelmed with it, which is probably making many of us, like myself, nervous because it's going so fast and it's, just passing me by so quickly. But let's go back to, so the Chat GPT, which is OpenAI, that's their tool or their version of this. And not that we're endorsing one or the other, but that's the one that I'm at least remotely familiar with. And it's because you turned me onto it back when we had this conversation a year or so ago. And so I went to OpenAI, the website, and I signed up for, and I was shaking. I was so nervous, but I signed up for a Chat GPT account, the free one. There is a free account.
And it's pretty robust now, honestly. The free account,
the free one is decent.
You get decent information and responses.
But so I set this up. I can go to Chat GPT, which I did yesterday in preparation for our conversation, just to refresh myself. And I can query or instruct or request of Chat GPT to. I'll give you an example. My wife and I went to Siesta Key either last February or the February before, probably last February, down in Florida.
Okay.
And I said, give me a 3-day overview of activities, restaurants, things to do in Siesta Key, Florida.
It's a great use for it.
And it generated like 10 restaurants. Try these restaurants. These are fancy. These are really casual. Here's some fun bars to hit. And be sure that you go paragliding and surfing and you can rent shit down here or whatever. And I just sat there dumbfounded. I mean, for me to go into Google and start, and you'd have to be clicking on websites and clicking on links, and it gave me all the phone numbers and stuff. And I was just blown away. And that was and like you said, the quality of my query, the quality of my question makes a significant difference. But it actually, in response to that, it gives me an answer. And then if I go back and ask it more, it starts to actually understand what I'm getting at and hone in a little bit better.
Right.
So the query evolves as you pursue it. If you're using interesting keywords or giving it direction, you mentioned one this morning that I thought was interesting. Give me this feedback in a way that would have been, that would be generated similarly to
assign like an avatar to it. Like,
yes, like a particular individual. I mean, so from the standpoint of safety, are you using what have you been experimenting with?
Anything and everything. I use
what types of things could you do?
The world is your oyster.
Right.
And honestly, from that point, literally just saying, as a safety professional, analyze this information. Analyze this Excel doc that has incident information from the past 6 months. Tell me what you can do with it. You don't have to have the answer. Like, that's the whole point of AI. You don't have to know what you want to do with it. Let it tell you what it can do with it, because chances are it's going to tell you something way smarter that you can think of. And if I try to fake it in a way to say, analyze this and find correlation between this and that and the other, and it's on a Tuesday, and do that for me. It's like, it's going to go down that path, and it's going to drill down as best it can following everything I just said in my prompt. But it's going to do that.
So you're biasing it with that.
Right, and it's going to go down the wrong path. So instead, I'm just going to say, I have this report of incident information. As a safety professional, what should I be looking at here? What would you look at? And then it'll give me my stuff, and I'll say, what else can I do? What would help me improve something or whatever? Like, just continue down the path. Don't start off so specific, and you're just limiting yourself now, because chances are you'll see the response and go, no, and then close your laptop and move on. To your point,
you uploaded an Excel spreadsheet full of data.
Yeah, so sorry, like examples,
wow.
That's what it's beautiful at. Data analysis. Like, OSHA has a document. It's like 271 pages. It's the training requirements for general industry construction.
Man, I know that document well.
I think when you download it, it's OSHA_2554 or something like that, because I've downloaded a lot for examples. But I can just click and drag that 271 page PDF and say, I'm general industry, give me a list of the required training topics that I need to prepare for the next year. And then it'll give me a list of it from the 271 pages in the next,
which OSHA has not
15 seconds.
It's gibberish in there. So,
and then, because that's the thing, is it's like, wow, this handout's really helpful because it's going to break it down for me, but it's still 271 pages. I'm like, all right, well, I'm a millennial. Break it down easier for me. Like, please make it just simple. And then it'll do that. But then further, I can say, make me a toolbox meeting schedule based on this and this topic.
These incident rates,
right,
these incidents or something.
Whatever it might be. Like, that was some of the first articles I had read like a year or two ago, was like, AI in safety. AI can write a toolbox meeting for you. It can write the discussion guide. And it's like, yeah, cool, but like, for a safety professional, that can also take you like 5 minutes to come up with.
I can do that.
You can just do a hip pocket class on it. So go further with it. But even if you don't know what to do, to that same point, ask it what it can do. Be creative. Just throw things at it. So another example was we'd been working hard on getting our return to work program revamped and pressing hard on it. And it was, okay, well, of the different job positions, yeah, I can look at the job description and go, okay, cool, that's kind of what they do, and then look at restrictions that person might have been given, and then have the conversation with HR and all the other different parties, and then determine, okay, yeah, we can or can't. Or I can build a bank, not even me, I can upload job description, a whole gambit of different possible variations of restrictions, and then more specific information, because job descriptions aren't the most specific. Ask the supervisor, hey, can you send me some information about what this machine operator at this machine actually does throughout the day, because the description isn't very specific. And then plug all that in and say, build me a return to work program for that worker, and it's going to spit it all out for me. And I've got my little document that says, all right, cool, I'm going to make sure we got a chair available just in case we need to. It's just basically helping you build your bank of jobs to have that are still value added, and it doesn't take me more than a couple of minutes of thinking about it to come up with multiple of them. Or
this is amazing, man, isn't it?
I mean, the camera systems was another one. Data analysis.
So the camera systems is interesting. You know, my son Kent, 26 years old. He's home right now. We had traveled together for vacation, and so he's home before he goes back to Colorado. And I mentioned to him that we were having this conversation. He's interested in this stuff as a young man. And I said, do you want to come and join us? He's like, no, I can't get up that early. But I said, what do you think? I mean, he doesn't know anything about safety other than it's buys food for him and stuff, you know, when he's home, those kind of things. And he said, you know, I think the camera monitoring systems that I've read about would be really interesting, much like what you just described. If you if you integrate AI into this system and say, when you see some of these risk factors that we're concerned about, make notification or alert us or something, much like you said, poor lifting techniques. It could be driving too fast, forklifts moving too fast. It could be maybe approaching a danger zone too closely, or it could even be maybe environmental factors. When the carbon dioxide level reaches this point,
right,
you know, kick on the ventilation or whatever. I mean, I think those things exist to some degree, but to integrate all of that into this system, I think there's some real
absolutely
promise to something like that.
I mean, like a podcast I listen to, it's called What's Your Problem? And it's it's a catchy title.
I love it.
He just interviews entrepreneurs who are trying to use technology to solve problems. And one of them I listened to is wildfire detection. Like, instead of having somebody at an outpost every so miles in the middle of a forest, you have AI trained on different looks of smoke and how to tell the difference between smoke and a different cloud formation. And so you have cameras that are detecting these wildfires and can detect them faster and relay the message faster, and pinpoint the location faster, as opposed to some wildfire. Some
dude with binoculars
using his like azimuth and he's shooting an azimuth. Well, okay. But then, so the camera system, I'm all for. My worry is though, like, it's still, what is it influencing the same habits that we have as safety professionals, which is missing the mark for the most part a lot of times of, well, that employee's got a bad posture. Good thing my camera told me. I'm going to go talk to that employee now. It's like, yeah, but don't use that as the end product. Use that as like you're building the data to figure out all of our employees keep having bad posture in this area. Change the freaking area.
Yeah, what can we do? Right. It's not. It shouldn't be policing the employees necessarily.
So it's like, that's a really cool system, but I would be wary that like we don't focus on that as the end product. That's just a supplemental product to get us to making the change. It's just data that we should then make decisions off of, not let that make the decisions for us. Or other stuff that you could potentially use it for. Like, it's not the best, at least in the past few months, with reading like layout maps, like plant layouts, but it's been getting better. If you upload a PDF, it won't do the best, but if I take a screenshot of that PDF, it can picture it and it can see it, and it can even add red lines for me. I was like, hey, I want to adjust this walkway line. I've outlined it in yellow. Draw an arrow to show me that you can see it. And it was like, bloop, I've drawn an arrow. Granted, it was like kind of messed up, but it still did a little bit. Anyway, you could say that, put your machines in there, kind of give it some information about the process flow and whatnot, and say, this is how it operates, this is how it goes, is this the most efficient path to take this product? And instead of you having to sit down with a whole team of people to figure all that out, months of time studies and all of us just sitting there watching cameras and whatever it might be, have it run all that stuff for you, especially if it's already watching your cameras. Cool. Analyze it after the fact, figure out process flows, this and that. I don't know. It's just
it's really just limited by your own
exactly
imagination to
like,
some degree.
We don't know how to use it the best way because we don't know how to use it. Like that's, if it's something you can Google, it's really easy to understand it. I have a question. What time does my local Walmart close? I'm not going to put that in ChatGPT. I can Google it. But if it's, give me a synopsis on the history of Walmart and or blah, 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 and then give me some stuff. I've noticed that Walmart's been having this. What's the trend on their prices in the past 10 years that you can see? And then it'll give me a report. Copilot is Microsoft AI thing. I'm just shooting off. I'm going off the hip now, so interrupt me whenever. But Copilot is built into Microsoft products if you have, if you're paying for it. But you can say, hey, given like Excel, I'm no bueno with it. I don't know formulas. I am dumb when it comes to Excel. But I can hit up Copilot in Excel, highlight what I want it to look at, and I can say, make me a pivot chart. And I want it to display this information so that I can have a meeting about it. And it'll bleep bloop it all together. And
okay, let's get into this. So if I'm looking at an Excel spreadsheet, I have access to, I'm paying Microsoft for this. I have access to Copilot in there somewhere, and I can ask questions about that spreadsheet.
Yep. Same thing.
How do I get to it? I mean, if I'm looking at the screen, is there an icon or something?
Yeah, on the home tab, far right, you'll see Copilot.
Okay.
It's an icon. I don't know how to describe it.
Okay.
It's a weird looking
Some weird
icon,
looking thing, yeah.
But yeah, it'll be there, and it'll let you know, like, we can only use Copilot if it's in OneDrive or whatever, or if you're paying for it, which I think at the end of the day, depending on your organization and licenses, like $20 a month maybe. I don't know. But like, that's really cool and all, but it's the same thing that we had talked about before with prompts. I have hit cases where I've got this whole thing of information, and I'll say, all right, review the information, make me a pivot chart, and I want it to be this type and look this way and have this information. And it'll say, yep, absolutely, cool, and it'll make it. And then I'll open up another sheet, ask the same exact thing, and I'll say, make me a pivot chart on a new tab this time, because I realized that's what it did last time. It said it made it on a new tab. So I add that little change in there to say add it on a new tab, and it'll tell me, I'm on that's far past my abilities right now. I cannot create a new tab. And it's like, that's weird. So then I get rid of that, and then it makes it on a new tab. So it's just, sometimes it takes some finessing, but that's kind of just, you had mentioned like at the start, like investigating. I would argue like so much of AI right now, because so much of it's open source and everyone's just figuring it out, that's all we can do too. Just figure it out. What questions? Hey, I have.
Just take the chance, get in there and start playing around a little bit.
Right. Just put it on there. Like I've done it before where it's, hey, here's this incident stuff from the past year. What can you do for me? Like, I wanted to find correlation between number of incidents and our schedule. If we're working more hours on these bigger jobs, do we have more incidents, or is it less because our guys are busy, don't have idle hands? And it was like, I don't see anything. And I was like, well, what can you tell me? Like, well, what you could do is see if you have data on this and that. Is this a busier season or slower season? Also, actual seasons, like what month is it right now compared to previous years, and just gave me a whole bunch of recommendations then of data that we weren't collecting. And then I can take that and say, we should start collecting this data.
Maybe this might be worth knowing. Yeah.
I should add this bullet point to the incident form.
And that was a fairly vague question. It wasn't what can you tell me about this information, or what should I be looking at? It's not requiring you to give these specific detailed instructions. You're just asking.
Correct.
And then it starts leading you directions that you can further investigate if they're intriguing to you, which I think is, because for me, being really naive and, this is intimidating to me, I just had to go in there and ask some really simple things like that, like yesterday. I was at a client's facility yesterday. We were talking about confined space entry. I had written up some notes about, okay, here's the regulation, and these are the things I want you to understand, because nobody likes reading regulations. So I personally tried to summarize a few elements, and then I knew that we were going to be speaking, so I just went to ChatGPT and said, write up a quick summary of 1910-146, key points or something. And it was much better than what I just wrote, having done it for 38 years or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, man, there is absolutely no use for me in the future.
I think that's the best way to approach it, though. You had just said it with just excited naivete. Like, ask it the simple questions. Like,
you've just described me too.
Because otherwise you're just overcomplicating it.
You're overcomplicating it.
Just use it. Like, ask it questions. What if you have a question about something, and you usually, like, safety people, that's what they're known for. I know a guy. I'm not a specialist in this, but I know somebody that could help me with this. Well, use AI as that person to help broaden your knowledge a little bit. Like, DOT was it for me for a while, of, we're having this guy complain about this because the medical practitioner said this. This is the situation, no personal information. Make sure you're really, like,
sure,
absolutely, especially if you're doing it in a professional capacity.
They're kind of putting it out in the world.
No confidential information or anything like that, but explain it a little bit and have it, and then it'll just bleep bloop. Based on the 2024 FMCSA medical evaluation guidelines, that's why he's recommending this and that. I'm like, oh, okay, I got a little more. I can provide that reason to him now. I couldn't have before.
Wow.
Or like ventilation. I had gone to a course spent a whole week confused about everything. But I can take what little I do know, and it helped me design a ventilation system for one of our plasma pipe cutters. And it was like, I want to design a local exhaust to capture the plasma, the fumes from this machine. Gave it details. I even gave it the machine manual, which was open source. It wasn't a specific thing for us. And just talked with it for a while. We talked about
a conversation back and forth.
What capture system I had, what was the horsepower on the motor, all the stuff you would need to calculate. Duct velocity, what's the span, how many 90s do I have, blah, 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 diameter of it. And at the end of the day, it was like, well, right, the last thing, cool. Here's this type. This is what I had fabbed for the hood type. Cool. Yep. Looks like you're going to have way more than what you need. And so you can dampen it here and there, and you're good. And so bolted it all together and made our own thing. And I'm a dumbass, but I was able to do it with AI. Like just yesterday, honestly, I have to do, I'm doing IH monitoring at one of our facilities. I got the stuff. And we have a whole gambit of different paints we might use. They might use depending on what product gets there first. And so I wanted to, like, each of them kind of are different. I want to make sure I'm using the right sample media, and I have it kind of all planned out and ready. So I just gave it the SDSs, 20 SDSs that we might use.
And you just I said, take them from PDFs and upload them? Or?
Yep. I just click and drag the PDFs, and I send it to ChatGPT and said, analyze the PDFs, let me know what sampling media I need to use given these 4 different types. And it just made me a list, all 20, and then assigned the sampling media based on the Section 3 and everything else, and was like, that's what you should do. So then I was able to just draw out my schedule and say, hey, supervisor, let me know if we're going to be using this throughout the week, because I'll make sure I have this sample media ready, or whatever it might be.
Man, I wish you wouldn't have just said that, man. I think you've just put me out of business. That's awesome.
And it'll help you figure out if I'm really confused as to what this is telling me to do here. I figured out this number, but I don't know what that's telling me. It'll explain it. And if you're unsure, never use it for like critical information, obviously, but check. Then, I'm worried I don't want to go off this because it might be wrong. Now call your contact. Now call the insurance broker to double check or whatever it might be. But you can at least use it to get you closer than you would have ever gotten.
And I love the part about educate me about like the DOT things and things like I need to know enough about it to have a conversation because there are many things that certainly that's my world. I'm a generalist and I just direct people to other people with subject matter expertise. But in order to have that conversation, a meaningful conversation, you have to have some understanding of it. Just like this, if people go out there and just play with it a little bit, I think for one thing, it alleviates some of the fear. When you do something simple like, help me, come up with I want to lose weight or I want to gain, give me a 3-day workout, 40 minutes, give me some exercises that whatever, stuff like that, simple stuff to get past that initial the fear, the anticipation is so great. When I first did it, I was literally, oh my God.
There's it's a broad spectrum of like, you've got the dumb AI that's just like there and it's talked to, but then it's mixed in with conversations about AI systems that have been integrated into, and this is how it helped us design this entire building so that it didn't collapse. And it was all thanks to this. It's like, so all of that is AI and it's intimidating as shit. But, like, just hop in somewhere. Like, just know you're not at the higher level of it. You're not trying to integrate it into a system to read through every single file and tell you what's going on.
Where is AI already in people's lives that they may not even be aware of it? We talked a little bit about this, like Netflix, for example. Yeah. I don't know if it's weak AI or what kind of AI, but it's obviously giving me suggestions about what I might like. It's always giving you that percentage. This is like 97%. Like right in your wheelhouse or whatever, and other places, where might you see some, like that Siri thing? Is that AI?
Yeah, it's a form, because it's learning all about you and users in your area, and it's using any data point it could possibly think of. If you have location turned on your phone, cool. If you allow it while you're using the app, it's using that, and it's using that with whoever else is next to you to say, oh, those two are next to each other. And it looks like they had their app open when they were both at Target, and Target's just down the road, so they must be able to get there fast. That IP address also pinged the Target website, and they spent 20 minutes on it. Like, it's just going to ping all that together. And like, at the end of the, like, if the product is free, you are the product, first off. So any product that is free that you're using probably has AI and it's utilizing or building data on you or others.
Right.
Like Facebook is just filled with, why don't photos like this ever trend now? If it has that caption, it's an AI generated image from whoever the heck, just so it gets, because it's going to monetize. It's if it's noticed a lot and gets a lot of likes or something, probably from also AI accounts.
Right.
AI users that just add comments, because then the top comments gets monetized, but they're just auto-generated comments from an AI model that's just pinging shit. And the comments don't make any sense. They're just pulling a random biography from Scarlett Johansson or something. And it's like, well, yeah, did you know this and that? It's like, oh, yeah, it's just top comments. And
I'm fascinated.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know.
It is it is remarkable, man. And I do think, you could do something as simple as just generate me an OSHA compliant respiratory protection program for people using N95 respirators. I mean, it doesn't have to be incredibly deep, thought provoking. It could be very simple too. If you don't have the ability to do that, if you don't even have a safety director, and you were a small company, and you could at least do those things that would be useful for you, I think as you said, it is literally limited by your imagination.
That's all it is. That's what I would stress is be creative, be safe with it, but be creative. Like to that point, I gave it a barrel dumper, like forklift attachment to dump trash barrels. Gave it the barrel dumper manual. I was like, I need like a 10-step checklist so they can do a pre-shift check on it to make sure it's good. It read the manual, gave me 10 questions. Cool. Copy paste that. I have my 10 question checklist.
Amazing, man.
I give it like a 200-page manual of a machine. I need an SOP, focus on the safety stuff. I don't need the super technical stuff because that's going to be in the different reference document. Cool. Blah, blah, blah. And if I don't trust it, give me a page number reference for each of the line items that you told me to reference in my SOP that you just made for me. Cool. Recreating, and then it would give it, all right, page 10. Then I can go back in the manual, page 10. Yep. All right, cool. It's saying what it should say. And there's an image on page 10, so I'll use that and put that in the SOP thing too. It's like, all right, normally I'd have to read through it, talk with a lot of people, and figure it all out. Now, 10 minutes later, I've got at least a good first draft that I can then use to talk with people and get it perfect.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
The time went by quickly. We're way over time. It is remarkable. And thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And thank you for turning me on to it in the first place. I don't know how far I'll be able to go with it, but just being aware of it and knowing that essentially my career is over, at least gives me the opportunity to move on to something else before it's too late.
No,
so.
Careers won't end. People, that's the one quote that I had heard that I really enjoy is AI won't take your jobs. People that use AI will take your job.
Right.
So just get in there and start using it.
I love it.
So
thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Appreciate your coming. Thanks, everybody. This has been fascinating, and I would love to hear from you. If you're utilizing AI in some capacity, with your safety and health program, I would love to know what you're doing, and I'm sure everybody else would be interested as well. So, let me know, ping me or send me something or have AI contact me or whatever. But have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next time. Later.